What's up, nerds? Welcome to Let's Pod and Play Season 2, Episode 2. I'm Corey, and with me is Ed. We're here to play inFamous: A Second Son. And
yes,
I think we're going to talk a little bit about superhero games and licensed games in general, and just, just have a discussion like we did last week. We decided, by the way, and we'll promote this throughout the week and our podcast and everything, but Saturdays at 8 a.m. Eastern Time is when Let's Pod and Play will be available for you to watch. So this is going to be our Saturday morning show, along with schedule change for Let's Play 20 Questions from NGR Radio. We'll go up at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So we've had some people request that 20 questions be broken out, which we've done, but we're going to start putting up the episodes 20 questions the weekend before the show goes live. So because we leave 20 questions in the episode. So but yeah, Ed, I'm excited for Second Son.
Yes,
one of the most underrated games, I feel like, for PS4.
It actually was kind of the one that sold the PS4 because of how colorful and vibrant it looked, and just like graphically it was very impressive.
Yeah, especially when they first showed it off before PS4 came out, everyone was like, because Troy Baker plays Delson, which is the main character in the game that you're seeing on my screen at least right now. He looks almost like if Troy Baker was clean shaven, he looks just like Troy Baker, and it was insane how much he looked like Troy Baker and everything. So, oh crap, I forgot about this, man. The holding the controller sideways, and you have to you guys probably just totally heard the shake. R2 to spray. How am I supposed to spray this? Okay. Yeah, so basically you have to spray the stencils, and they try to do the motion control, and I apologize if you're hearing a shh sound, but it's the spray paint can. So
yeah. I haven't did none of that, everybody, so you'll probably see me do it later. I'm still on the cutscene. Started the new game.
Yeah, I started a new game too. It's been so long since I played this game.
I've never beaten this game.
I never beat it either. I got this game. What did I get? I got this game, and I think I got The Order at around the same time. So I sprayed everything, I think, right? Oh nope, man, there we go. Did it, nailed it. It's just ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Probably should have started the episode after this sound, but that's okay. But I really enjoyed inFamous 1 and 2 for PlayStation 3, and those were the games that I think really stood out for me as, PlayStation fan.
Yeah.
Those games. I really liked inFamous 2, and I really liked the vampire one that they did the spinoff of. What was it called? I forget what it was called, but it was really cool, and I really liked this game too. I liked how they were kind of like world building with this game instead of going straight to like inFamous 3. And sadly, it doesn't seem like we're going to get an inFamous collection or an inFamous 3 proper anytime soon, since they're doing Ghost of Tsushima. But how do you feel about this series as a whole, Ed? As you spray your spray cans.
Yeah. I actually like the inFamous series. inFamous 1 and inFamous 2 were really good. I think I like 2 better.
What were you doing up on the roof?
Then what the heck? Oh, I like inFamous 2 better than I did 1. this one looks kind of fun to play at times. I think this is what made Sucker Punch who they were, and I think it's probably one of the best. Besides Breath of the Wild, I think one of the best first-party open world games that I played.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised at the reception to this game because I think a lot of people preferred Cole over Delson, first of all, and especially like it seemed like they were really pushing Cole at the end of the PS3's life cycle with, you know, Infamous 2 and the DLC, and then PlayStation All-Stars. They had two versions of Cole. They released a lot of like Cole merchandise, and then there's literally no mention of Cole in this game at all. And I think a lot of people were like, well, I would have rather had a game finishing Cole's story, but like, if people, spoilers for Infamous 2, if you've never played it, like the ending that they used to start this game out, Cole's dead. You know, Cole sacrifices himself to save the city. And so like they couldn't really use him, and I thought it was cool that they were like, everybody talks about racial inclusion, and we kind of talked about that a little bit on the Tomb Raider episode.
Yeah.
I mean, they dive into like Native American culture and history in this game, and Delson is a Native American, and I think that was something that, you know, is really underlooked. PlayStation does a good job of diversifying their protagonists, and it kind of started on PS4 with this one, with this game, and I think people kind of underlook that as well. So.
Well, yeah, because Sony, their worlds that they tell, I mean, not worlds, their stories that they tell, you know, they want to vary and like really bring out of a narrative. So they'll use characters that you'll always remember. And they kind of like to diversify. I think they're good at diversifying, where, you know, instead of just using a particular white male for that character, for the gang, they'll use, you know, with, like we were talking about Second Son, you know, use a Native American. Well, any other Native American game that you could actually think of is like Prey.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nobody was really thinking about Native Americans for video games.
Yeah, which is weird because, like, I mean, not weird, but it's kind of like, if you think about it, Native American culture kind of has a cool. You could do a lot of cool things with Native Americans in games, like telling a culture, or like maybe exploring the story of like how they kind of were wiped from the face of America, you know, like not to be like go into like a negative part of it, but there's a lot of, if you're looking for compelling stories, like, why can't you explore that side of American history where, like, maybe we always hear it from like the settlers' point of view. Why don't we hear it from like a Native American's point of view? Like, why don't we see a game where they're struggling to survive against the quote, the white man? You know, that'd be kind of a cool story to see. And maybe they tell a story where like a Native American band wins the battle but loses the war. You know, I think that would be a cool thing to show. And like, I don't know, I think it would be really cool. And you know, Horizon touches on not like Native American stuff, but like, you can
it has
see
a feel to it.
Yeah, you can see bits and pieces of like, okay, this was clearly inspired by Native American culture, even though it takes place in the future, you know.
Yeah, like with the tribes.
Yeah, and like them and I know some people got caught up in like, you know, them being called braves isn't exactly like culturally sensitive and whatever, but like, you know, that there's so much that goes into that, and each tribe has different meanings for words and everything, and
Yeah.
they weren't necessarily Native Americans. They were really just broken up into tribes and stuff, and that was for me, like, I thought that was really cool. Like, I thought that inspiration was clear, and I thought it was really cool that they actually touched on stuff like that. So, and I think it would be cool to see like a Red Dead Redemption style game from the point of view of the Native Americans. Maybe not Rockstar doing it, but you know, like that kind of open world Old West style. And you're a Native American and you're traveling the land, trying to survive. Maybe it's a survival game similar to Zelda, you know, where you're using resource management to upgrade stuff, and you know. So, sorry, I took a drink right in the middle of my conversation. Back to inFamous though. This game really tries to use all the functionality of the DualShock 4 that
yeah,
like the swiping and the shaking and the
reminds me of the horrible gameplay mechanic in Heavenly Sword
oh jeez
and Lair.
Yeah, Heavenly Sword is another game that I would love to see get a remaster.
I would love that game to have fixed controls, cause
yeah, I just like, especially going back and playing Hellblade, like I really want Heavenly Sword to get some sort of remaster and fix controls similar to like maybe God of War controls instead of whatever control scheme they came up with. Heavenly Sword was great though. I love that game so much. Ninja Theory, gosh, Ninja Theory is such a great studio.
What the hell was that? What the hell?
I'm at the part where he's getting his powers for the first time, trying to learn how to use them. Or like, he realizes that this is crazy. Man, what if you just like woke up and had superpowers? How crazy would that be?
That is like,
Oh my god. Make it stop! Reg, I really need you!
oh sorry,
Ed's
I was
concentrating.
watching the story. That's kind of like been one of my dreams. Like, what if I was a superhero, and what my power would be?
What powers would you have, Ed, as a superhero?
Definitely speed. Speed will
You okay?
will kind of probably be my first one.
I gotta get you out!
And for some unknown reason, like
Tell me first!
my second power would be like being smart, like being like super smart, being educated, because it would help me
No!
be like an engineer or something like that, so I could create my own weapons and be able to figure out
Reggie, I can't stop. It's okay.
be able to figure out things like what the hell? Oh,
You were my brother. Alright? You were my brother. Okay. This thing with you is gonna pass. I promise. We'll fix it.
okay, so, okay.
You with me? Okay. Okay, get out there. There is a bot here, so we gotta stop him.
Sorry, looking at the directions.
I need you.
Ed's basically
Being-
Wally West.
Yeah, but being able to be like, you know, be able to create my own weapons and figuring out problems and everything. The weird thing though about my like superpowers is that depending
Been able to even get to you back there. If I hadn't, promise me you won't do it. Hey.
depending on what dream I'm having, my powers kind of vary. So one of my superhero groups, it's called Tournament Fighters. Yes, everybody, we're returning back to Turtle Talk. But we had the power in our eye to transform. So we were human, being seen. And it started out with me and my two best friends who used to live around me. We were walking from school and we see this rock, and we touch it. And it gives us different superpowers and everything. And our superpowers were weather based, or elemental based, not weather based. So I had wind. My friend who had katanas, he had thunder, and my other friend who had the sai, he kind of had like water. So we sometimes combine our powers and fight stuff, and we literally had to learn how. Oh, that was weird. We had to learn like martial arts and stuff. I became the leader because I was the oldest one. But my weapon of choice was a bow. For it. So gotta find Betty. And we end up I gotta pause it real quick. From there we ended up growing out. So people like in my real life, even my brother was part of it, and a lot of my friends and stuff. It was like kind of like 10 of us. We all like developed powers. I ended up becoming president of it, and then found out that it was actually an organization.
Wow.
So I had became president and the leader of all, and this had gone on for years because of training, of being a great leader, and being in so many situations that I always was able to come out victorious. We always came out victorious, and so they did me as the leader. Kind of find out that our boss, like the person who created us, this power and everything, is like a tiger. He's like this big god tiger and stuff, and he has a translator. When he speaks, he says it to the translator, and they reveal it to me on what he's saying. And it's funny because he's a tiger, he's a cat, and he's very big and stuff. That I jumped on him and rubbed behind his ear, and all you can hear is just this big purr, because he still has like have the sensitivity of a cat, and loving rubs and stuff like that. The weird thing about it though is that the antagonists that were fighting, everybody wants to like fight me to, of course, take over the world and everything like that. Well, the antagonist has a little daughter, and the little daughter met me somehow and became infatuated. Like, she thought I was like her brother, her best friend, and everything. And so we end up putting the antagonist in this space prison where he can never get out, and his daughter took over. And his daughter grew up and still loved me, and we still became best friends. And she said, do not attack this group. So we kind of saw stuff like there. but yeah, that was my first one. I kind of am currently having one. I'm sorry, everybody. This sounds nerdy. This sounds bad. Um, the one that I currently have is that I'm super smart. And I have ability to see stuff before it hits me. So I was good in school, being able to logic, and people, don't like smart people. They will bully me. But I have, trained myself in the martial arts, and I have a mom and stepdad, and I don't get along with the stepdad. And so, we're sometimes arguing and fighting, and because I'm smart, I'm making remarks in logic and stuff like that, and we just have like a bad relationship. So I finally graduate high school, and going to college into engineering. I'm now so good at engineering that get my master's and everything, and I train myself to be like this engineer martial artist and stuff like that, building shoes and my own weapons and armor and stuff. Somehow this connects to the Marvel universe, and I cannot think, what's Samuel L. Jackson's character?
Nick Fury.
Nick Fury. He has this contest or this audition and stuff for people to join the Avengers. And so I did this thing 3 times and kept getting rejected because I was the only human fighting. So what ends up happening is that I end up just like I said, okay, that's fine. But I end up making my own team. And one of my team members is the Punisher. And then it's all 3 different things. And my technology is so good, the government wants it, but I'm not giving it to them or anything. And that's the kind of dream that I'm having now when it comes to superheroes. So back to this game. Sorry, everybody. I talk too much.
I mean, that's the point. That's the point of this Let's Play show, though. It's like we're podcasting. Like that's literally what we're doing, right? So, like, I mean, if people like right now, I'm watching a cutscene, right? And it's like this isn't the show to watch cutscenes or to be, into the game that we're playing. We're playing a game, but it's mostly for us to it's really just another excuse for us to podcast pretty much, and like play a game while we're podcasting. Like that's what we set out to do when we did Pod and Play season 1, and this is just the evolution of that, right? Where we're like, okay, we're playing inFamous right now, and we're talking about superhero stuff, we're talking about we're talking about stuff like that, and we are not we're not, what the heck, come on, I'm trying to do this. Okay, where was I going with that? We're not playing the game to like watch cutscenes or to dissect the game as we're playing it. That's not what we're doing. We're here to talk about subjects that maybe the game tackles, maybe the whatever subjects the game handles in their own way. Maybe we'll talk about that, but like we're playing inFamous, so we're gonna have a good discussion tonight about superhero stuff, and like we're doing that.
Yeah, I'm told that.
So
yeah.
And then Ed has the concentration face.
I'm sorry, Eric. I would say that when it comes to superheroes, I'm DC. I have always been a DC kind of guy, which is really funny that I love comic books and superheroes. I could never draw them, and I could never be the kind of person to collect them. I was into collecting video game magazines than I was comics. The first graphic novel that I actually had was like an old school Batman one, was black and white, and it kind of showed how Batman started off and how Robin came along and everything. And I don't know how I found this book. It just appeared in my house. I think my brother got it like from school. Excuse me. And ever since that, I have been with DC. Like I still buy the DC animated movies. For when it comes to like video games, I've played, like, of course everybody know, like X-Men and stuff like that, but my first like licensed superhero game was Batman by Sunsoft on NES, and it was a 2D platformer. What the heck?
That game is not very good. It's funny that you said Batman. Like I played that game too, and I was like, man, Ninja Turtles is way better than this. And it turns out Batman's probably a little bit better, but it's still not very good either. I don't know. I don't. My first license, actually my first like introduction to superheroes wasn't even superheroes at all. It was, Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles is pretty much my entry point to everything that I love about life. Like, it was my first entry to collecting toys. It was my first entry to video games. It was my first entry to drawing, to comic books. Like, Ninja Turtles was pretty much the gateway for me for everything. It was my gateway into finding the X-Men, because I was looking for comics as a kid, turtle comics, and like the way the store was set up, you would walk past the X stuff to get to the T's, in X-Men. I remember seeing this big comic of Wolverine, the brown and yellow Wolverine, and I was like, man, that looks cool. So I picked it up and was just like looking at the art in it, and then I saw like, oh, X-Men, and that's how I got into X-Men. And I'm not a huge like Marvel DC either way. I just like certain heroes. Like I love Batman, and I love the X-Men, and I never really got into like the Avengers until, and I wouldn't really say I'm into the Avengers now, right? I enjoy the movies. I got way more into X-Men, and then that caused me to go into like the solo books like Wolverine, and then I got into X-Force, and then that introduced me to Cable and Domino and Deadpool and stuff like that, and that was kind of like my entry into comic books. And I always like wanted good X-Men games, which is why I was obsessed with the X-Men arcade game.
Yeah.
And not the crappy 4-player one, the 6-player 2-screen one.
Well, it's weird that you mentioned X-Men, because a lot of people.
First of all, do you have the X-Men arcade game on a 360 somewhere?
I never owned a 360.
Oh man. Okay. Man, because that would be just such a fun thing to do for a Let's Pod and Play, like the Turtles arcade game, the X-Men arcade game, and like I have the Simpsons one too. But oh man. Yeah,
I think because I played so much of that at the arcade, I just didn't buy it. And I have my reasons for not owning a 360. I actually could go back, because when it comes to arcade superheroes, Superman was mine. There was a 2-player Superman one that was 2D, that you could fly. and beat people up. And then another one was like Captain America, where he was able to throw his shield and everything. And then X-Men would be my third one that I played. My first comic book that I actually bought was Spawn. I got into Spawn by picking it up at Walgreens, and he was the first one. There was a Spawn back cover where he had a Santa Claus outfit on, and he is the only like superhero comic that I had tried to draw.
So, I have a question for you about Superman. Why Superman? Because, for me, the reason why I liked Ninja Turtles and X-Men and stuff like that so much is, it always felt like every single one of them had some sort of weakness, and they always had to work together to overcome their weaknesses and fight as a team to use that as their strength. It always, and I've never read a lot of Superman comics. I never really read any, to be quite honest with you. But and I know a lot of people say that the Christopher Reeve Superman kind of ruined Superman for a lot of people because he is overpowered. And for me, Superman always felt like someone that was super overpowered. And that was always why would you want to read about someone who is going to beat everybody every time? And since then I've kind of learned Superman is fighting to be human, really be more human than most superheroes, because he's not. He's an alien. He's more powerful. He's he could break someone with his pinky, that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's a lot of people are reading these because they want to see someone beat up the bad guys and maybe something could happen. Because to me, the X-Men, there's always a counter for someone. Wolverine had Magneto. You know what I mean? There's always some sort of foil for someone in the X-Men. Apocalypse. There's just... Man, my brain hurts so bad right now from working all day. I can't even think right now. But you know what I mean? There always seems
I can answer... let me answer about the Superman one.
Okay.
Definitely for me, Superman was easier to understand. There was nothing complex about him. He fought for good while trying to hide his identity and fit into a world and fit into this world. Of course, depending on how you look at it, I got into Superman by watching the movies, like most people have. And I didn't even know that Superman even had a black and white TV show. And I got into, Superman that way also. There was something about Superman that I was able to see and follow. There was nothing too distracting about him. And probably when you read it now, there's so many different stories and versions and multiverses and all that stuff. And people know his origins on how he came, or origins, on how he came here, how he went through school, and depending on who the writer and the artist is, like that team. For me, X-Men was had a little bit more social commentary to it than Superman is. So, of course, when you're reading comics, you're thinking of their superpower and battles. As kids, that's what you most focus on. You don't really focus on story. Collectors will focus kind of on story, but they like having their mid condition, and they treat it like it's a beautiful woman that they want to cherish for a long time, from a collector's point of view. um if you look at X-Men and Superman, they are two different things to identify with. if if you're a person who has to deal with identity crisis or deal with trying to fit in, Superman kind of represents that. And doing with isolation, and let's say you're like really smart, but you have to hide the smartness because people who are smart get bullied, get made fun of, and stuff like that makes you feel insecure. X-Men dealt with more social commentary because, let's go by the cartoon, they already had to deal with fear of a government, and that was that form of racism and discrimination, and these mutants, the fear mongering that these politicians and other antagonists put forth, it just showcased that when something is not taught, or no one's trying to understand it, they use these tactics to bring fear among others to win on your side. So X-Men had to deal with that, and for a lot of people, who the X-Men has different powers and different struggles that they go through, they kind of represent different races when fear is being dealt with among them, when there's no understanding. So X-Men and Superman, they just have their own things to deal with, and what you identify with, you'll be able to understand. Now, don't get me wrong, I love X-Men, I love Superman, I love the cartoon that I've seen of X-Men and the movies and stuff. I like the comic books, and I love, like I said, the TV show and the movies, getting into it as a kid. When I got older, I kind of understand where Superman was coming from. Then I did X-Men because me being in a black neighborhood, we didn't deal with racism or discrimination. We dealt with bullying within our own people, but we haven't had I've never dealt with another race as a kid saying something negative out of fear about me. So I couldn't connect with X-Men on that level when I think about it, but I tuned in every Saturday to watch them fight and show how much they want to protect the innocent and everything, and that they shouldn't be feared among. But like I was staying up at 11:30 at night trying to watch Nick at Night for the Superman TV show. Of course, the Batman TV show was bonkers and zany, but that theme song, watching them fight with the pow and the bang and the different camera angles and the colors and stuff like that, as a kid, I was into that. I love it. And then when Batman the animated series came on, that wowed me. And we haven't even touched on Power Rangers. Power Rangers is a whole different universe of superheroes. Because in America, unless you were into Japanese culture, you wouldn't understand Power Rangers on the suits and the Godzilla looking fights and stuff. You wouldn't understand.
Power Rangers, half of every episode was based on the original Japanese version of whatever Power Rangers were over there, and all the fight scenes and all of the robot versus monster stuff was all like the Japanese footage.
Yes.
And like there was an interesting interview with Jason Frank, who plays the Green Ranger, who plays Tommy, and ends up becoming the White Ranger. And it's like the reason why he left the show, like the reason why he left the show the first time was because they ran out of Green Ranger footage. Like that's the whole reason why he was written out of the show, you know, and why he didn't have the power to come back. And then they introduced the White Ranger, and they ended up bringing him back as the White Ranger. And that's the story behind that. But the only reason why he was written out of the show, and people were upset, but like people didn't understand, like they ran out of the Green Ranger footage, so they literally had to write him out of the show for a little bit, which is insane to think about now, you know.
Right.
And he's like, they talked about reusing some of the footage, but they didn't want to do that because that's just, you know.
And well, yeah, and that, yeah, because like if you think of the Sentai series like that, for a lot of us, we heard about Ultraman, and Ultraman, you know, that was just something that we heard of, and we've never seen a TV show. Like, that came later, and I think under a different name. Because it was on, for us, Channel 50. It's UPN, it was a different name at that time. Like, it would come on, like, at 7 o'clock in the morning. Where Fox had the Saban series, like VR Troopers and
VR
Power
Troopers
Rangers.
awesome.
We are VR Troopers.
And then it's like the creepy white guy that like he would like grab the ball on his desk and he'd say the same thing every time and like go to like the weird like space place, like the virtual space where like all the monsters were.
Uh-huh.
Oh man, I love VR Troopers. That whole show was on Netflix. Like I don't know if it still is, but when they announced that was coming to Netflix, I was like, oh yeah, that's gonna be awesome. And I watched the whole thing. I had such a crush on the girl in that show, by the way.
Well, I like how it was like the white dude, the black looking light skinned dude who looked like he was from that movie. I cannot think of it. Well, I guess he took some pills or something or tan something to make his skin black. Soul Man. It's a 80s movie. It's a mess. But he had like this guy, the black dude, he had the jerk curl, and then it was the girl. It's like a 3-man team. VR Troopers was good. Yeah. I did.
And then the dog. Don't forget the dog.
Oh yeah.
The talking dog
didn't really do anything.
No, but he talked. It was amazing.
Oh, okay.
He would just like every time he would like slobber everywhere. That's to the point where they were like, "Hey, we're just gonna make the dog talk while he's moving his mouth."
Yeah.
Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Whoops! I killed that guy. That's all right. I like this game. I like the way it moves. But yeah, man, VR Troopers and Power Rangers were my jam, and I loved it.
Yeah. And now,
did you ever watch the Power Rangers Ninja Turtles crossover?
No, I didn't even know they did one.
Yeah, it was like the third Power Rangers, not Zeo, the one that came after Zeo, and the next mutation, Ninja Turtles, did a crossover episode. It was one of the worst / best things I've ever seen in my life. I loved it. But man, dude, talk about next mutation, man. That was weird.
That's something I've never seen.
Oh man, it's weird. It's on Netflix.
Ooh, then I have to watch it.
Yeah.
Now we talked a little bit about superheroes, so I probably talked too much about them. And Marvel, DC. Um, when it comes to cartoons, themselves, when it comes to comics for America, there was a show called Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. And that was kind of based off a cartoon where these group of people somehow time travel, I think, back to the dinosaur area in a Cadillac. It's a cartoon, but it's also a video game that Capcom did.
Of course, Capcom did a game based on Cadillac and.
Yeah, but it was weird because when you think of licensed games, Konami was always in lead. Capcom ended up doing.
Well, Capcom did a lot of the Disney ones. See, like that's when I think licensed games. Like Konami to me was like Ninja Turtles, and then like as I'm a. Oh my gosh! Stop it! The speaker in the controller is not ideal for this game. I mean, I'm sure it's ideal for the game if we weren't doing a pod and play, but for the pod and play, it's not ideal. But for me, Capcom was all about the licensing because I'm a huge Disney fan, and like DuckTales and Rescue Rangers and the Mickey, some of the Mickey stuff, and especially like when it comes to like Genesis stuff too.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse and the Castle of Illusion, a game that I played but never could beat.
Oh man, I remember they remade it for PS3 and Xbox 360, and I was so happy. It was awesome. Like that remake, just seeing that's why I got so excited for Epic Mickey, was because like I miss those old Mickey games. Like you would think, like, I don't know, I just feel like Mickey games would be is such like an easy, like, if they would get the right team to do it, like that would be such an easy sell for Disney, and it's just like it's not, they haven't been able to do it. Like, I mean, Epic Mickey was great. I thought Epic Mickey was fun, but I mean, it had a lot of issues, but I thought it was fun for what it was. Yeah. 2 maybe not so much, but 1 definitely. And the problem with 2 is that they didn't get enough time. If you listen, there's an interview with Warren Spector on IGN. I don't know if you listen to Unfiltered or not.
I see it, but I don't tune into it because I'm just like,
Oh, that's really good, man. You should listen to it. There's a 2-parter. There's a 2-parter with Randy Pitchford about alien. Like the second part of the interview was all about like aliens and like the debacle, and he answered all the questions. Like he answered them. Maybe not happily, but he answered them.
People still blame him about that game, man. I think that's why I have Gearbox. I love as a development team. I love the people who make the games there. Randy Pitchford. I'm not going to say trust. Randy Pitchford is someone I just don't believe in, and I think he's not a good leader. He's not a good face for that company because of the alien colonial marines. You knew this game.
That's another franchise too, though. It's like Alien. Like, I mean, I think a lot of people view Aliens as like the first movie and the second movie as 2 different things, even though they're part of the same franchise.
Yes.
Like Alien is like a straight up horror movie, right? And then Aliens is an action movie with horror elements, right? And like if you're doing like an Aliens, like I thought Alien Isolation was a great version of Alien, right? If you're making a game out of Alien, that's how you do it. If you're making a game based off Aliens, like, dude, that's basically like Republic Commando or Halo, and you just replace the Covenant with aliens. Like, I don't understand how a developer that's as good at first-person shooters like Gearbox, who worked on Halo and who worked on Borderlands and Duke Nukem forever. But you know, like, I don't know how you get so. And like,
I don't.
And like when
it's not. But see, the thing about that, the thing was that you took Sega's money and you put this product. You gave another team this development. And your job that you said was, well, we were just gonna get everything back and then connect it. So everybody is thinking, okay, you're showing us this trailer, but you're not showing us no gameplay. You're not giving Game Informer the time to put their hands on it. You as, and I'm talking about Randy Pitchford, you as a CEO or leader of your company, knowing that this is deceptive, you kept up with the lie and then placed the blame on somebody else.
Yeah.
While you focus more production on your own IP.
Yeah.
Sega gave you, from, and this is just from the viewpoint from a gamer, from looking from outside, Sega gave you the money and you the contract to make this game.
Yeah.
When in the contract did you decide to sidestep Sega and give the game to a different developer while you focus on yours? Because Sega was Sega just like, we're giving you all this money to make our game. Where's our product at?
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
I mean, in the interview, he like kind of explained it, how like what really screwed up that project, and like, I don't know if this is correct or not, but this is what he said in the interview. Like, they had, like, Fox had announced that they were partnering with Gearbox for that game, and that they had the developer, like, they kind of announced that they were working on the game before the game had even like started pre-production.
mm-hmm.
And like how, like, they basically said Gearbox was working on it before the contract was finished, even like being written up and stuff, and that they only had like 11 months to turn out a first-person shooter game.
Well, during that time, I could understand, you know, with that kind of development and stuff. Gearbox is a big company. The problem is that, you know, even if that was the case, your production and development time on Borderlands 2 shouldn't have started. You as a president, like CEO, leader, whatever, if you knew that you was gonna get into this contract, you should have been committed and did the work.
Yeah.
Because you didn't split it off at two teams. You didn't hire more people. You went ahead and jumped at this opportunity and took the contract without thinking that I need to put a good team to make this game.
Yeah.
So Fox and Sega, they went to Gearbox to do this. Gearbox didn't do, I don't know what they, well, I can't really say what they did, but Sega ended up getting the blame, and Time Shift ended up getting the blame, where Randy Pitcher just wiped his hand off and walked away. That's why gamers are mad at him. They're still mad at him. They think he's a liar, he's deceptive, and he's someone that people don't want to support. But they love the developers and they love the Borderlands franchise. The people who wrote and designed that game. consumers and the gamers, they love that.
Yeah.
They gave us a great quality product. It just sucks that an untrustworthy and deceiver at like Randy Pitchford, from a lot of people's viewpoints, is attached to that, and it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It literally sucks.
Yeah. You know, I don't really have any opinion of Borderlands. I never really got into it. I know people love it, but like at the same time, I don't know how much of that is like, he just runs the studio and they have a popular franchise and stuff like that, but like, I don't know, Gearbox is very hit or miss for me. Even something like Bulletstorm, which, you know, I think they kind of own now, because of like they remastered it and did the Duke Nukem thing with it and everything. I don't really know how all that's working out, but I don't know. I feel like and you know, I don't obviously we don't know Randy Pitchford, we don't know who he really is or anything, but like every time I hear him in like an interview or in some sort of like a conference or whatever, like he always seems very like he's a marketing guy. He's very like, sometimes he comes off as sounding like the words come like that he says and the way he says them is very like BS-ish almost. And you know, that's, I'm not saying like he is, I'm just saying like sometimes people have that personality where they sound like they're BSing people all the time. And you know, man, this is weird, like you get that a lot when you're working in like a restaurant, and I used to work in a restaurant, and a lot of like, you put on that kind of fake persona to like kind of BS your way through serving or marketing or you know, dealing with people. You put on that, we call it server personality, like and it's just like, it's different from your normal personality, and it's just something that you use to mask like how you're really feeling or whatever. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You've worked in retail, and I'm sure you've worked in restaurants and stuff, right? So you know what I'm talking about. And that's the way he kind of comes off to me a little bit, and it makes me not really, I don't know if it's trust is the right word, but it makes me question what he has to say sometimes. And I get that when he's talking about stuff like like the one time he compared Duke Nukem to Half-Life, was like, okay, maybe not. Let's not. So sorry, I'm in this big huge fight and my words are not coming out correctly.
Well, I understand. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from and everything. Oh, okay. Sorry, gotta pause it real quick. I understand where you come from. Like, regardless of what you think of Cliff Bleszinski, he can make a game.
Yeah. I mean, but like, he doesn't try to BS anyone. He's always
exactly
straightforward. Even like if he sounds like I would rather have Cliff Bleszinski, excuse my language, but I'd rather have Cliff Bleszinski be like a snarky asshole than someone like Randy Pitchford, who always like sounds like he's trying to hide something or like mask the bad by fronting with something good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I would really rather have the straightforward answer, and that's what I always like about Cliff Bleszinski, is like he's always like that, even like on Twitter, or even though like Lawbreakers has kind of come and gone and that game doesn't seem to be very successful, he comes out and says when he's wrong, and he comes out and says when he believes in something and calls people out. And like, I would rather have someone like that 100 times over
right
someone like Randy Pitchford. and that's just based off interviews and what I've heard from interviews and articles, and following both of them on Twitter and playing their games, because I'm a huge fan of Gears. Like, I love Gears, and that was Cliff's baby for a long time. But yeah. Sorry, I'm fighting some big trucks with blue lights, and it's kind of scary. Not scary, but oh man, more guys, come on. But as we kind of like wind down this episode, we've been going for all an hour now.
Well,
what?
can I?
No, you go ahead.
Last thing I want to say about like superheroes, and I know we didn't touch like anime, and like other countries and stuff. I think there's the one thing about superheroes that I love is always been the stories. I've always enjoyed the stories. Batman is my favorite character of all time when it comes to comics. When it comes to movies, Punisher Warzone, I think it's like kind of the best comic movie. Captain America Civil War is number 2 for me. I love Batman, the movie, the original one. Like, that's an all-time classic. Like, with Jack Nicholson. Like, I don't feel like that. No one can ever really like kind of beat that, in my opinion. But like, I love Punisher Warzone, and I love Captain America Civil War, because the first Captain America, I fell asleep. The X-Men movies are good, but like X-Men 2 is like the best one.
Yeah. I like oh my gosh, there's so many guys right now. I don't even know where to go. I really like, oh my gosh, this guy is like just trashing me, man. I'm trying to run away. Trying to hide. I really like the X-Men movies. Like, I like the Marvel movies, don't get me wrong. Like, I do. Like, I think Winter Soldier and Civil War are like their best movies. I really, really love those movies. But like, I appreciate that X-Men always tries to do something different, and like, not all of them are good, but not all of them are bad. And like, they've had a lot of misses. Like Wolverine, X-Men Origins Wolverine is just, ooh, that's rough. X-Men 3 is pretty rough. X-Men 1, like nowadays, like it does not hold up well. But X2 is great. I mean, they've hit the jackpot with freaking Deadpool. I thought that movie was just, it was awesome. I thought Logan was pretty good. I don't think it was as great as a lot of people said it was, but
I haven't seen it yet. The Wolverine I really like. I like the Wolverine.
Yeah, I love the Wolverine up to the last like 20 minutes maybe. But like, it's still a fun, really, really fun movie, and I like the way they tackled it. I thought it was awesome. I love the new, like, the First Class, I guess you would call it the First Class trilogy. I don't really know what to call it. Like, I really think First Class is awesome. I thought the second movie, Days of Future Past, when they use both casts and kind of put them all into one movie, I thought that was awesome. I even like Apocalypse. He looks ridiculous. Apocalypse looks ridiculous, but I still really like that movie. New Mutants looks like it's going to be doing something different. Trying to be a horror movie. I know it got delayed, but New Mutants is going to be a pretty cool like thriller. It looks like. I appreciate that they're trying different things. You know, Logan really told like this really cool story and didn't even like. It didn't even have to be a superhero movie, and it would have been good. You know, like those are my kind of favorite types of. Man, I wish this guy could just. This guy with the Gatling gun is just like crushing me right now.
I haven't even got that far. I just got to the part where I gotta blast the stones to to let the bus go through.
Oh, geez, you're still there. I did that like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, I paused it to be talking and stuff.
But I really think, yes, I'm aware I'm low on energy, but there's no more things. But I really like those movies, and I like some of the superhero movies that aren't like Marvel, or like I think the Dark Knight trilogy is pretty good. I think I like when superhero movies seem to be grounded. You know, that's what I like most about the Dark Knight trilogy, is like they're pretty grounded for superhero movies. You know, they like they're ridiculous, but they're still plausible. You know, so I mean that's why I like those movies. And then I really like, what was the other one I was going to mention? I forget. I'm sorry. I'm trying really hard to like. It's hard to play and
focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that works. Smoke shot, maybe. I think I was supposed to upgrade these in a certain way, and I don't really know how. But you know, I just hope like it does feel like we're getting a little oversaturated with the superhero stuff. You know, like the DC stuff doesn't seem to be panning out. I didn't think Wonder Woman was a great movie. Like to me, that was just Captain America all over again. You know, like I really liked the first Captain America movie. Like, I know I'm kind of in the minority of that. Oh, stop with the phone stuff on the controller. I really liked that first movie, but like, man, I don't know. I couldn't do Wonder Woman, man. And it doesn't have anything to do, before people hate on me, it doesn't have anything to do with female protagonist or anything. I thought Gal Gadot was pretty good in that movie. Although, like, the one thing I didn't like about that movie was, like, they made her seem like a complete idiot throughout most of that movie. Like, when she got to, like, the human world or whatever.
Yeah. And
that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. If you're trying to have this strong female protagonist, like, don't make her look like an idiot the whole movie. But that's just me. So, but I haven't seen, besides that, I haven't seen any of the DC movies. Like, they don't really interest me. And it sucks, because I wish they did. I want them to be good, because that's going to make Marvel change up their stuff.
Yeah.
Marvel's been so samey the last couple years. Like, every movie just feels the same. And I haven't seen Thor yet. I haven't seen Black Panther yet. You know, as of this recording, I haven't seen Black Panther yet. But, you know, by all accounts, those movies are changing it up enough to where it could be different. But at the same time, I'm like, I bet if I go see Thor, I'm going to feel the exact same way I felt about seeing Guardians of the Galaxy or Spider-Man. You know, they're going to feel samey. So, I don't know where I'm supposed to go now.
Oh, just want to say this though. I chose good. Infamous 2. I mean, Infamous Second Son. I don't know if you did evil.
No, I chose good. I've been choosing good, although I accidentally did kill a couple civilians, but that's okay. But I think that's gonna wrap up this episode of Let's Pod and Play. We've been going for an hour and 7 minutes. This was a good discussion. I like what we're doing with this second season. With Tomb Raider and now inFamous, and next week's episode we're doing Metro 2033. I want to say we're doing the first game.
I think so. Yeah.
So, just because like that game's coming out and that does some really cool things with, it kind of reminds me of like a linear Fallout type game where like it does this really interesting thing where bullets are your currency, and it's very atmospheric and dangerous, and it's a really cool, interesting game based on a book series that is kind of like, after like the first 3 or 4 books is kind of all fan fiction, basically, where like they kind of curate writers. It's kind of like what Star Wars was before Disney bought them, where they would let people kind of write their own stories and introduce new stuff into canon before Disney took over. But this whole series is kind of based on, this is what Metro looks like in France or Spain, or the main 3 books kind of take place in Russia, and it's kind of like a big deal. But we're going to take a look at that and have some interesting discussions, I'm sure, about politics and stuff. I don't know what we're going to talk about for that one. We might not even talk about any of that. We might talk about freaking Switch games for all we know. Who knows? But anyways, this has been an episode of Let's Pod and Play. You can find it every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, or, any time after that. This is our second episode. If you did not watch the Tomb Raider episode, I highly recommend it. We had a really, really good conversation on acceptance and diversity, and
and about the Tomb Raider game itself.
And about what Ed said about Tomb Raider. You can find Ed at That Retro Code. You can find his podcast Optional Opinion on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and other podcast apps, as well as him and I on Nintendo Power Block and Arsenal X. So you can find me at Corey and HD on Instagram and Twitter, and various other podcasts on NGR Radio. Check them all out. Download our podcast family. And until next week. I don't know. I don't have a catchphrase for this episode. Keep on gaming.
Hey, let's pod and play.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
What Ed said.